Hi and welcome to Finchat podcast. My name is Phila, or Phila for short, one of the co-founders of Finchat. Today we're doing stuff a little bit differently where in the middle of a conversation we were having as the co-founders about stuff we were finding interesting at that time, we randomly started recording, and we plan to do this more often for a more easy and casual listen for our listeners. Today's topics ranged from financing in sports and video games, the future of the venture capital space in the world, the tech revolution in Africa, and the possible virtual colonialization by US tech companies, and how South Africa's risk-averse nature kills our entrepreneurship. Enjoy.
Soccer financing is really interesting. Like, when you guys get the time, you should really look into it, especially because there's this big division happening in soccer financing right now. So there's something called new money clubs. So like your Manchester City, your Paris Saint-Germain. So they get like these rich people from all over the world, these rich billionaires and these rich oligarchs to come and invest like huge amounts of money into the club. And then post that.
But also because it's like a status symbol. Because I mean, a lot of people buy teams just because some of them are passionate about it.
Yes.
But a lot of them
owning
are
a
just
sports
like
team is a thing.
Yeah, it's a thing. Like Donald Trump bought a football, like American football team, and I don't know if that guy's even a fan of that team.
Chamath owns the Golden State Warriors. That is crazy. Chamath owns the Golden State Warriors, and after he owned them, they just won back-to-back championships.
Doesn't Magic Mike own
No.
a club?
No, he was like senior like VP and then like he left.
So he doesn't own. I thought he owns.
Michael Jordan owns a club. He owns Hornets. But like it's crazy like this thing that happens is it's like you never really see that view on things up until you get exposed to it. Yeah. And like I don't think I was looking into it up until you mentioned it, because I always looked at it in terms of like American sports. Like I was like, I never think about private equity when we go buy a football team and flip players. Based on finance principles,
I was also like, that's why I came in and I told you guys about like the amortization principles. And people started expensing their soccer players like that, so amortizing them as opposed to... So amortizing basically is writing the value of a player over a number of years, as opposed to when you buy them, writing them off at once. So let's say, for example...
So they see their soccer players as an asset.
Yes, as opposed to a once-off expense. And this was actually motivated by something called financial fair play. So what was happening in Europe is these big clubs were going and getting super indebted to get these big soccer players, and they couldn't keep the financial health of the soccer players alive, or of their soccer clubs alive rather. And secondly, it was just kind of really unfair because anyone with a huge amount of money can come and effectively buy the league and just buy 11 of the best players in the world and buy the league. So they introduced financial fair play, which aims to kind of limit the amount you can spend on players. And so instead of them expensing players at once, they started amortizing these players over 5 years, so it looks like they're expending little by little by little by little.
How would they actually, because they get massive valuations obviously on the players, how do you think they actually model that? Do they, because obviously when you get a big player like Ronaldo, Juventus bought Ronaldo, right? And I'm pretty sure there's shirt sales went up like crazy and it had a massive impact on the ticket sales and things like that, especially for like a die-hard Ronaldo fans. Do you think that's like how they actually, do you think they do like a present value of the future sales that would be connected to their brand?
Definitely. There were articles when Ronaldo came out, like you're saying, when Ronaldo transferred to Juve, that he actually financed his own transfer through shirt sales. So exactly like you're saying. Like, he was bought for this massive amount of money. It wasn't a record-breaking transfer because he was already 30. But there were rumors that...
How many did they don't buy him for?
Just over 100 million.
Yeah, I mean, if they sell a jersey, like what does a jersey go for?
$100?
$100, yeah.
$90 to $100. It's 1,400 rand at the beginning of
the season. So they just have to make like 1 million shirt sales, which is not difficult. I mean, if you're a whole city supporting a brand, a soccer brand or a club,
look at
to sell
diehard fans that just move from club to club. Players.
Yeah, I mean, there are a lot of people all over the world that would order them.
Yeah,
and they're quite expensive actually,
in
rand terms.
I think you guys are right. There is a commercial aspect attributable to the value of a player too.
Yeah,
Of
well,
having
that
like
is,
a
I
big
think, the
name.
main thing why. Obviously, they want to buy them to have a better club, and there's this whole thing about winning. But at the end of the day, making money is still probably a big consideration, except for those billionaires or even almost trillionaires.
I think maybe, but I think also soccer clubs, especially European soccer clubs, are very traditional in they always value the soccer over the money. They very, very, very deep on that. So I think they do what they can to do and to stay profitable, and they also keep reintroducing like various stuff to stay profitable, which you can speak on. There's so much they do besides actual like.
But you know, like Manchester City, right? I think they don't. They have the same owner who owns like LA Galaxy in America.
New York.
Oh, is it New York? I just
York
remember Frank Lampard
Yes, Frank
moved
Lampard
between the two of
went
them.
to New York FC. Yes.
I think if you bought, because Manchester City wasn't, their support base wasn't big at all like 10 years ago.
Yeah.
Right?
It's
Like it was, I mean, see how it laughed.
Yeah, sorry,
It's a
see
City fan. But I still remember, like, they didn't have a big fan base. We were probably too young to remember exactly like how big the club was and how well they did. But
They did horribly. I was not too young. City was just a horrible team. For the
And you didn't
longest
even see
time
that
ever.
many like City fans.
City fans were just huge in the UK because they live in Manchester and they have this thing where if you live in Liverpool, inherently you're a Liverpool fan. If you live in the north of London, you may be a Chelsea or Tottenham fan, depending on where you live. But outside of that, you're all right. There wasn't a lot of people wearing blue shirts. Well,
yeah,
blue shirts.
where I mean, if you look at that from a financial perspective, so now he bought it for X, right? This billionaire, and he just signs a couple of proper players. What they did, that's what they did, and then this shirt sales probably like 100x in the last like 10 years. Like I'm sure their inflows went up massively. So I mean,
It's also not just attributable to the short sales. I know for Manchester City, they're owned by the Etihad Group, right?
Yes.
And so they got criticized. I think it's a smart business move. We can argue this, but they got criticized because the Etihad Group was using the stadium to advertise whatever they want to advertise, whatever products they want to advertise. They on their T-shirt. The stadium is called the Etihad Stadium. So whatever they have investments in was just always advertised on match day. And just imagine how many people are just watching match day, and it's just all over the stadium, all around the world.
well, that makes sense.
That is
though.
it's amazing business sense.
It's, I mean,
It's amazing
advertising
business sense.
is a massive industry, and you automatically, by buying a big team and by building it big, I mean, if you have 10 million supporters, I mean, soccer is the biggest sport in the world. So, I mean, just by them doing that, I know the name of Etihad. I wouldn't have known the name Etihad otherwise. So, I mean, that brand building is absolutely fantastic.
They do. They do.
And like also if you think how it transcends to like other platforms, so like they have now we look at FIFA. If you go FIFA now, like, look at how many people you've also tapped into that market.
The video game market.
Yeah, you see, and then there's ads in the video games, and then your brand's all over the video games.
Yeah.
And it's
Yes.
just so you've tapped into so many
Exactly.
markets just because you
Exactly, and I think he bought how much do you think he paid for the club?
I remember. I think it was like I'm not too sure. Someone will check me on this. I think it was 300 million euros.
See, that's not even a lot, bro. That's
For what
like,
it's worth right now.
just
it's nothing
compare that to a marketing budget of a big company, right? I mean, Facebook and Google makes their revenue. They're massive businesses. They make all their money just from advertising, right? Just because they get 1 billion users or billion, like Google gets 1 billion searches a day, right? But if you build if you buy a soccer club for that price and you invest in some players, I mean, that's a marketing strategy. You're building a massive brand and marketing through that. It's crazy.
I would like to ask you guys. So not traditionally, just soccer kids have like Nike or Adidas or Puma, just some form of sports brand on the kit, right? To what extent do you think a Nike or a Puma or an Adidas needs that? Especially because it's such international.
Like in South Africa.
Not in South Africa. I'm sorry, we don't have football in South Africa. We have whatever we have. We have whatever we have. But do you think, because they pay a lot of money to be the official kit sponsor?
Yeah, like
Yeah.
So
I think
Like
they
Nike
actually
on
started-
PSG and Nike on
It's like
Yeah,
when
they-
you see the Jordan PSG.
The Jordan PSG is the
It looks
nicest.
super dope.
Well, how big was the Air Jordan deal not for Nike? Right? I can't remember, but I saw a post like a couple of months ago where
When he signed, like initially, they thought he'd make like, I think it was like 1 point something, like a million the first like 5 years. And then the first year he made like 100 something million.
yes, it's something like that,
Yeah,
something
it's
crazy.
yeah.
And Adidas like passed on a deal where he said like, because I think it was there were
wanted to go to
negotiations
Adidas,
between
yeah.
them.
And then they said, nah.
Yeah.
It's crazy. I was reading this article this morning, pivoting back to Liverpool because they're in form of like the sports like forefront right now, and I'm really interested in the finance behind. So they're sponsored by New Balance, right?
Yeah.
And so they started getting sponsored by New Balance, I believe, in 2012 or 2013, and they struck a deal with New Balance. Né? And now that they've won, they want to go strike a deal with Nike, right?
No, that's not nice.
No, listen to the full story, right? So they have this clause in their contract with New Balance that if someone comes to you and says, okay, I would like to offer you a new deal, scrap your New Balance deal, né? New Balance is allowed to match that deal and keep them as a client. So they have like that clause. And so Nike approached them. Initially, in 2013, Liverpool approached Adidas and Adidas said no, they want to sponsor Liverpool because they weren't a great team in 2013. So now in 2020, Nike approached them, or Liverpool approached Nike, and Nike made an offer to them. And then New Balance matched it, so they had to stay with New Balance. And then they took it to court, and they said that New Balance can't provide, number one, the amount of stores that Nike can provide. Number two, the amount of exposure. And Nike used the example that they have Michael Jordan, Serena Williams, and someone else. I forgot the third person. All ready to put on a Liverpool t-shirt. And New Balance don't have that. And
That is
insane.
massive.
And that's how they won the court case. So Nike is the official kit sponsor for next season. New Balance is off now. That's how they won the court case. Poor
You
New
know
Balance
so much
country-
about Liverpool. Are you a Liverpool fan?
I'm not. I hate Liverpool. I'm a Chelsea fan. I'm a huge Chelsea
Chelsea
fan. I'm a huge Chelsea fan.
But I'm just realizing through this, a sports club is actually a media company. Just think about it. It's basically a media company. That's all it is. And being a sports star, well, I think the sports stars were like the first influencers. If you think about it like that, they are influencers, obviously, and they were the first influencers before all the social media came along. I mean, those were the role models. Those were the people people followed. It's just crazy how things changed now. Like how it actually became easy to be an influencer.
It is.
Yeah, where it used to be. Okay, not that I'm taking away anyone from who is an influencer. I mean, a lot of people work incredibly hard to create crazy good content.
Yeah.
But I mean, Michael Jordan, bro, that man trained like crazy to get the influence what he is. Okay, he's probably one of the most influential people out there.
Sports history, yeah.
But just think about the amount of work they had to put in to be an influencer. It's just crazy how things change.
I think it's also a big generational thing, and it's a big thing. Randy's a huge basketball person, so he'll know this. There's a big thing of people our age, before we saw The Last Dance, who think, yeah, Jordan was cool, but we never really got to see Jordan play because we were kids. So for us, our Jordan is like Kobe and Bron. Like those are like that's our people. So seeing that shift as well in influence from like a Michael Jordan to a Kobe, rest in peace.
It was like looking for the next.
Yes.
Next. It's like take it back now. It's like, so there's a new kid, Zion Williams. He's been idolized as a new like as the next like LeBron.
But how crazy is it actually how content, the business of content is becoming massively. Like Phila said now, we didn't know anything about Michael Jordan until Netflix brought that thing out. When we just saying, because that's actually a brand thing. That's actually, just think about it.
Timing,
I won't be.
That
Yes.
series was amazing.
You know,
everyone's like,
I won't be.
and watching it.
It was supposed to come out in July. Did you know that? And they scheduled it earlier because everyone was at home.
It
Yeah,
makes so much
but I wouldn't be
sense.
surprised if Nike actually sponsored that thing. Because just
But
think
Nike
about
owns Jordan.
Yeah, no, that's what I'm saying. It doesn't. It would make sense if they sponsored that whole production. Because just think about now, you're passing the name of Michael Jordan onto a next generation.
I definitely think they did because they released a new Jordan shoe when that was airing.
Yes.
Jordan sales just went up.
Yes, you see, so content, that
Yes.
just shows how content
Yes.
is becoming proper
And everyone
important.
around the world was just talking about
that thing.
Like, oh, did you see episode 1?
Exactly the same what happened with that F1 Drive to Survive. that was the best thing they could have done for that sport. Honestly, did you watch that Formula One Drive to Survive?
I'll be honest with you. I found Drive to Survive. I think it's alright.
Yeah, no, but it's not about that. It's about the people who didn't watch F1.
And then you should get them hooked.
And then they watched it and they got extremely excited for it.
I think
and
Sia is one of those people. He
yeah,
didn't watch
is he
F1.
a massive F1 fan now?
Yeah, and then he watched Drive to Survive, and then now he's an F1 person. I was laughing at him. I was like, bro.
It's so interesting. Well, that's Sia when he's a Man City.
So content is becoming like a massive brand building
Content is king.
big decision when you're actually in a business, especially for branding and advertising. I mean, the other day I listened to a podcast about two guys who started a water brand in America. It's just water. Literally, their product is water, but they built the whole thing around branding. So they built a company for the market of, like, you know, when we in like clubs or whatever, like it's weird to walk around with like a glass of water or whatever. People feel ashamed to drink water. So they wanted to tap into that and make water cool. And they also didn't want to go after that, drink water because it's healthy and like alcohol's bad for you. They went more like, drink as much alcohol as you want, but just remember to hydrate, drink water. And they also specifically went after that market of people who really love heavy metal. So that's like who they specifically went after. And they actually created like a vinyl record, a heavy metal vinyl record. That with their name on, with their branding name on, and that thing went viral also between the heavy metal fans and so on, and that automatically bought them brand name and bought them customers just because they invested like, I think it was $10,000 into that content, which is crazy because now suddenly every company could potentially be a media company. I mean, I'm seeing Investec creating crazy amounts of content. I don't know if you guys look on LinkedIn, but if you look on LinkedIn, like I love that platform, but like if you scroll on, it's within 3 posts, within the top 3 or top 4 posts, there's something about Investec, a podcast or and something they wrote or anything like that.
It's interesting we're seeing financial services pivot in that direction because, like you're saying with Investec, with R&B too, they have like the economists talk about what's currently happening right now and so forth. But even away from like traditional banks and stuff, I know we having this interesting like Black Lives Matter kind of thing that's happening, and seeing traditionally financial services providers like private equity firms and stuff that traditionally like stray away from the media come forward and create content towards this, where it's just like they never really like talk, like you never see like an announcement from BlackRock or anything like that, and seeing them come forth and just kind of create content in that direction is also like really interesting from a branding perspective, and from what that makes them. But like I definitely agree, it's a very interesting time for branding. It feels like it can make or break you. Information is so readily available, and we can so access everything we want to know about anyone, that I feel like it can your content, what you put out, can make or break you.
Definitely, and I think it's such a difficult thing because I think people waited a bit on it. Now with COVID, I mean, all of us got like a massive content overload because that's almost all we could do. You did your work, and then what do? You consume content the rest of the time. And the olden days, content consumption was reading and so on. Now there's so many ways to consume content.
Listen to podcasts, the audiobook.
Audiobook, whatever.
Do you guys listen to audiobooks? I find it so difficult to listen to audiobooks.
I absolutely love it.
I have a bunch of books I still have to read.
No, I like it because, I mean, it's like a podcast. You can do it while you do something else with your hands that doesn't take even...
Wash dishes.
Wash dishes, or even if... I remember when I played Minecraft last year, I even enjoyed listening to a podcast because, I mean, there's not a lot of thinking going on when you do. Like,
you played Minecraft?
Bro, it's so fun. Honestly, it is. And actually, Minecraft was doing extremely well in the last, also because of the content creators. They started, I mean, there's this one YouTuber, Mumbo Jumbo, his following went up like from under 1 million to over 5 million. I think it's over 5 million now. And because of that, the Minecraft sales also went up crazily. Like, and now they brought up a lot of new updates and things like that. And I think that's that's a big strategy that a lot of games also follow, is getting people to create content.
I was about to say, going after communities to create content for them.
And the
like how
community thing.
Fortnite blew up. I don't
was
play
crazy,
Fortnite
yeah.
the last 2-3 years.
Just because of people like Ninja, bro.
Yes, with Ninja just
Yeah,
blowing
up
up Twitch streams.
the World Cup around
Just-
that too.
You know, it'd be extremely interesting, right? I listened to another podcast the other day about people who create ETFs, right? So ETFs are basically, they put a lot of businesses together into a fund, and then either they do it from a public companies that they buy all the funds and then put them together in a fund, and then obviously sell smaller shares of that into a fund, so that you can buy like 10 companies with only buying one ETF. So if you buy an ETF like in property or a REITs, let's say global REITs ETF, there might be like 20 of the best REITs that fund chooses, and then they sell you almost shares based on the fair value of those companies that fit in the ETF fund. So these guys are trying to figure out how to do different ETFs on like things like games. So they wanted, what they're busy with now is creating an ETF specifically on online gaming businesses.
That's crazy.
So buying shares in like Epic Games
yes,
and
Riot.
all of those
That's
big
crazy.
online gaming things, and specifically buying games like Dota and those big
On Steam.
online games and stuff, and then putting that into an ETF
That's crazy.
and having people invest in that, which I think is like crazy cool. I mean, because from an investor standpoint, you don't really want to go into a specific company in gaming because it's such a difficult industry to understand. I don't know. I don't understand how that works. It's almost like a media company because you have to get a lot of users and then sell like premium stuff on that. But like, I'm just so interested to see where things like that go, because I mean, for someone to invest like 10 Rand or whatever into a gaming ETF, I think that could be quite interesting.
Yeah.
Did you guys, I read the other day in the news, what do you guys think the VC, the startup space is going to look like going forward from now after COVID?
I have been seeing a lot of speculation. Firstly, that the VC place in terms of technology is probably going to move away from Silicon Valley. I think we're going to see that with the emergence of Asia, right? I think secondly...
Do you think in the tech space or...
Yeah.
Like the tech space is moving over to Asia?
And I also do think that there's a lot of capital that's untapped in Asia, which I feel like...
And actually SoftBank is a massive investor in... SoftBank, I think...
SoftBank has just been making dodgy investments. Just
Where is SoftBank based? Isn't it? It's China, right?
China. It is China.
Yeah.
Just the WeWork and Wirecard. But yes, I think a lot of the capital that exists in China, I think there's a lot of capital in China that hasn't been used, that we're going to see VC firms move towards there to get that capital to kind of apply it where they want to apply it. So I think technology-wise, there'll be a big focus on Asia. I think so in the future.
Yeah.
I know a lot of Silicon Valley CEOs have been also starting to look at Africa. I know before COVID started, the CEO of Twitter wanted to come, and the Airbnb people wanted to come and live in Africa for 6 months to study the VC space to see what they can do this side. So it'll be interesting what kind of products they can introduce to like an African market.
And it's actually quite interesting because I saw that sovereign wealth funds are starting to invest in startups, like in the venture space. Yeah, like just at the beginning, I know Randy's face light up when he gets sovereign wealth funds. A sovereign wealth fund is like a fund that a government sets up. Like South Africa wanted to start one. Well, Ramaphosa announced it before we had lockdown, where they put money together to save. Basically, they set up a fund to save money that from resources that they use now to service the future generations that live in the country. Like in South Africa, we had a lot of gold reserves. So a sovereign wealth fund, if we had one from the beginning, they would like save 20% of every single of all the proceeds that we get from exporting gold, right? Because that's obviously some natural resource that we have. But we didn't do that. South Africa chose to rather invest in infrastructure. Like we have massive roads and stuff like that. That's how they invested in the future, basically. So, but it's actually interesting that sovereign wealth funds are investing into startups now, which is weird because it's like traditionally very high risk.
It is, yeah.
But it's crazy. Like just at the beginning of 2020, over $17 billion have been allocated to VC. It's crazy. And like it's more than the whole of 2019's allocation by sovereign wealth funds. So obviously COVID like drew a massive attention by people that need to understand like we need to start businesses, because I think one of the biggest hits that we had from COVID was the jobs.
And just traditional industry. I saw the CEO of Airbnb say that a business that they took 12 years to build has just been dismantled in 6 weeks.
Sure, but
I know, it's insane. I heard that that statement.
is
A
powerful.
business we built in 12 years got dismantled in 6 weeks.
why do you think that like
Well, because like I think with the whole lockdown stuff and like everyone like just being restricted to go home, like you can't really move. You can't really book an Airbnb. I know my sister came back from the US and she had to like be quarantined. So they could get an Airbnb, but after that I think they just closed down. So
I just think us as strategists.
So then they
An
just
event like-
close the business. They just close the business
Well,
because
you're
it's
not
more
allowed-
valuable dead than alive.
It was such-
unless you essential service.
In the case of Airbnb, their stuff got really, really complicated. Before I get into
Okay, now I
Airbnb,
can understand why Airbnb has trouble. I can't think how they make any money now even.
I think when you're strategizing as like a board, an event like COVID is so unlikely. Like the unlikelihood of just, if you told me last year in November that, bro, next year in May you'll just be walking around with a mask and they just look like post-apocalyptic South Africa, it's just I would laugh at you.
I mean, look at New Zealand.
Bro, when you go to a shop, did you ever think in South Africa you're going to see every single person standing there with a mask,
With
a
a mask.
meter and a half
This is
away from
someone
another?
fighting with the hand sanitizer.
Yeah, like pa pa pa.
And so it's just when businesses do form their strategy, I don't think anyone really like saw that. Even businesses that are doing well, like a Netflix, they didn't project that we'll all be cooped
Yeah,
up.
there's
Yeah.
a lot of like companies have benefited off of it, and some companies also.
But it's
did
a
really bad.
good. It's my mom actually said something important. Is going forward, that's going to be a key consideration in everything that we do.
Yeah, training
Right?
especially.
Anything has to be sustainable in a way that social contact isn't good. Maybe if it can bankrupt your business, then you shouldn't be in that business, or it's not a sustainable business. I was speaking actually when I did the podcast the other day with Phila from Park Up. She mentioned that their business is it's a platform for people to find parking, right? But I mean, in COVID, no one wanted parking.
Yeah.
So now they have to pivot and they need to strategize and change how their business works.
Did she mention how they?
No, she didn't. She just like said, yeah, listen, there's something coming up.
It's interesting to see how businesses have like pivoted
Yeah.
with the COVID. Mr. D's delivering rain SIM cards now.
What? Oh yeah, but Mr. D is under Takealot. So and Takealot delivers like all the rain stuff. So and it's bro, because I got rain the other day and I had to
Mr. D?
wait. No. Ram
okay.
Ram delivered it, but they took.
I hate Ram.
Brother,
Ram delivered my rain
dog.
too.
Honestly, I'm not a fan. They took like a week to deliver
Yes.
it. And honestly, we spoiled now,
Yeah,
because
because like,
it's
I mean, let's talk about that. Like,
Takealot
a
said
week,
the president.
How bad is a week? Like, 10
But
years
Takealot,
ago.
if you buy something at Takealot now,
You get in 2 days. Like,
yeah, sometimes even the next day.
Sometimes that day,
that day,
I bought
yeah.
a printer cartridge the other day. It came that day.
Yeah.
I woke up, I ordered it at 7 in the morning. At 2.
But actually, I think e-commerce is going to blow up now because, like, did you guys see the new app that Checkers brought out?
No, what did they buy?
So they brought out a new app or platform, Checkers 60, where they deliver food within 60 minutes from when you order it. While it worked well in like the first 2 weeks when they launched it because no one used it. Well, only the first people who found it used it. So I got my food like within 60 minutes. But now it's like they don't have enough delivery guys. So now even they like lock it down and they say you have to order before like 10 o'clock in the morning.
Wow.
And then maybe you even get your food at 6. So it's not really that efficient because they don't have the infrastructure and the logistics. But I mean, that's even just think the massive business you can start from that. If you have a massive logistics business who can deliver things
I think that's
on
like
the same
new
day.
normal now.
Especially with food, bro. That luxury of buying food and having it delivered at my place.
Luxury. I don't know, man. I'm totally against the whole thing of doing that. It probably like bad habits.
It creates bad habits, but if you set a precedent, it sets an expectation.
I think a lot about the businesses we can uniquely tailor to South African experience. I think there's going to be as well a massive space for that once I think, like you guys often hear me talk about. For those of you who don't know, I'm super interested in, like the gents hear me say this all the time, the intersection of the fourth industrial revolution and financial services, and really just the access to technology by a diaspora that hasn't previously accessed technology because of the type of unique products you can kind of tailor to them. And I can't wait until like the ordinary South African kind of has a stable, regular internet connection where you can start.
Do you think Rand can bring that?
I think they can, but they're gonna have to increase their scale so they cut down the cost, because even their most basic package is 250 rand.
Yeah.
Still a lot of money for like the average South African even.
Yeah,
I can see
it's
that from the
expensive, bro.
average South African even. So I think when that, like, I was thinking about this when I woke up this morning. So in townships, there are people who have like a main house, right? And then they build like rooms around their house that they let out. And just it would be such a cool solution, because normally if you have like rooms outside your house, someone will come, walk past your house and say, hey, he has a room. They'll come, they'll knock, and they'll ask, do you have a room for rent that I can use? Imagine if that can kind of like be streamlined onto an app where everyone who has a room available to rent can kind of like put their room on a phone, on an app, and then everyone can see which rooms are available to rent instead of going door to door. And how they can monetize that is maybe like advertising something, maybe like a local plumber that works in the neighborhood who
you can like
yes,
set up in the app,
an app,
and you can
and
like do jobs there straight up.
yeah,
Easy.
it was just, and just uniquely tailored South African solutions would be so cool, and I look forward to that.
Yeah, because I mean it's actually a massive. That's the whole problem with Africa, and like what I think we holds us back. Our market is actually massive.
Yes,
like people underestimate our market. It's massive. If we create, just think about it. If you create a solution like that, right, and the infrastructure is there, which is a bit of a shortcoming, but there's possibility of getting 15 million people on that platform.
Yes.
Just using that to rent rooms and to, yeah.
And then also just like the biggest thing also we have to take into account is like the whole transition, like putting things online. It's because people like in like Africa are really hesitant with the whole thing of like going online.
Yeah, I mean that's a big problem we have like with taxis and stuff, that they still work with cash.
It's like also like, I mean, if you think about it, it's like people will be more hesitant to buy an app versus going to buy like a product at a store.
Yeah,
like,
I never understood that, but
it's
you're
just
all
like,
right.
No, but I'm still like that. I don't know. I don't buy apps, bro.
I buy apps.
I buy apps. It's like you can go to a store and you buy a video game, but you can't buy a premium.
Bro, you spend 600 rand on a video game, but you won't spend 30 rand on an app.
Exactly.
It's like you'll keep on creating new emails for a free subscription.
But I think there's so much, and that's just one of like them. There's so much unique business solutions we can create, for uniquely African business solutions we can create, should we kind of increase the access and the scope of just like technology. And like you're saying, right, that like you said, Josh, you mentioned infrastructure is a big problem right now.
Yeah.
So obviously it can't happen right now, especially because you can't justify putting that over other things where there's still schools with like no proper sanitation and so forth. So you can't justify access to technology over basic human rights first. But it would just be a very interesting South Africa and the entrepreneurship.
Isn't access to technology becoming like a basic human right? Well, not a right, but it's becoming a massive necessity.
It is. You're seeing it during COVID.
Bro, how can you study? Honestly, just think about this. How can you study without internet? It's impossible.
And that's what I think, like a big thing is coming up is like you can't really like give people like the same. They don't have the same opportunities because some people don't have the same access. So like, technology during these times, because like it's really important that you have a stable connection and you have like a laptop or printer or whatever to print like your notes for your test and stuff. So it's like it's really important to like have like stable and good infrastructure.
I mean, and that's so difficult. I don't know. How are we going to solve that problem? I honestly want to see that problem solved like in the next 5 years, personally. But I think it's so difficult because even our places with good infrastructure, our internet is still like pretty okay compared to like in the rest of the world.
I don't know. I think if you put it in the rest of the world, I think we're very slow.
Yeah, no, we're slow.
Yeah.
Like average. Okay, we meant like average.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I'm seeing also like Amazon. You know what I'm scared about? I'm scared Amazon and Microsoft and those big giants come and they put all the infrastructure in, and then they just like soak up all the everything that goes through it. They take all the money out of
that. That's a big fear I have too. In my head, I call it another form of corporate colonialization, where
bro, that's what colonialization is going to be.
I call it corporate colonialization, and it's just stuff like little things like Google announcing that they want to come into Africa and provide free internet. Nothing's free from Google. So they want to come into Africa and they want to build.
You know what they do? They build a massive data center.
Yes.
A massive data center.
Yes. And they can just cater ads to people. It's so scary. And it just breaks me because it's stuff that... Yes.
Bro, that's literally what happened.
That's
literally what's colonialism. They came in, they used their resources, and they're going to come into Africa. Yes. I mean, Microsoft is already doing it. They're building massive data centers in Africa and using our resources, using the electricity, because data centers need two independent electricity sources, because if the data center should always have power. So if the one fails, you need the backup, obviously. And that's what we're going to see. Like, everything is changing where colonialization is becoming virtual also. Yes. And that's Africa is obviously the first place people, the big companies will go to. AWS, Azure from Microsoft, and Google will come to Africa to put up their servers, will try to virtually colonialize Africa. And I think that's why it's important to actually be awake to that. And there's actually a big opportunity to...
With all those big companies, like if you think about like growth-wise, internally they become such monopolies that you can't really grow anymore internally. So like, the biggest thing you can do is just gain new markets. So like, it's like, especially
if your business is built on scale, which all the tech companies is built on. It's all scale.
I mean, with them, it's a huge market.
It's all American industries though, and we've seen it happen before, whether it be with banks who they grow too big to be in America, so they go and they start a whole new thing in Europe. Because when the banks move to Europe, your Goldmans and your Morgan Stanleys and your JP Morgans, the Europeans were also very apprehensive of, why are we giving foreign companies all of our banking business? Same thing with management consulting when McKinsey went and they branched out. Because they had just done everything within the US that served the US government.
Why don't we branch out? We have fantastic financial services. Why don't we just go take over America?
Yeah.
Because if you look at the market share,
I think we're scared.
Most of the big banks we have.
I think we're scared. I think South Africans are very risk averse.
I think so too. I have so many friends who go out for 6 months to live in the States for 6 months, and they're just like, who qualify as CASs? They go live in the States for 6 months and they're just like, nah, I think I'd just rather go at home where there's a job waiting for me. I think that's cool.
Bro, that's why South Africa has the worst entrepreneurial mindset in the world.
For me, it's the complete opposite. If I'm there, I'm immersing myself. And I'm not coming back until I have something where it's just like I've built something internationally. So I think you are right. We are very, like you're saying, risk averse. South Africans just have a comfort zone in general.
But it's also almost a bit of a fear zone also, that I can understand. The reason why people can be so risky in America is because unemployment is incredibly low. So if you want to do a side, or if you want to build a fund for yourself to cover your expenses for a year, you'll be able to quit your job, try to build a business in a year. If it fails, you just go get a job again. You can do that in America. When in South Africa, if you lose your job, you might never get one again.
And there's also no net to fall back on. Bill Gates can drop out of Harvard to go found Microsoft because his parents have enough money to send him to an Ivy League university.
And they'll probably get him back in.
Yes, exactly. So if Microsoft fails, it's not like his parents are looking at him like, hey, you're like our one hope type thing.
Yeah,
so
that's what happens in South Africa.
Yes, that's also a big factor of they're looking at me at home. I'm putting people my younger siblings through school.
Yeah.
I'm building a house for my mom and so forth. And there's also that, like, they have to gauge that, balance that too, and think about that. That they also have other responsibilities as opposed to themselves. Where, like you're saying, Americans only have to really think about themselves, dude.
Yeah.
Your parents have you if you fail.
And in our country, like, it's massive to take care of your family and everything.
I still do think we need to encourage entrepreneurship.
We need the thing is, the reason why we can't is we don't know how to support it. We don't have enough money.
Yeah.
So in America, I'm not saying that's the best way to do it, but like their VC world is crazy. They have incredible amounts of capital that they can allocate to any business, right? So people build businesses they get funding from ideas. So you just have to have a good idea. You literally draw something on paper and you go to a VC fund and you pitch it to them and they tell you, okay, here's $100,000. Build what you can do in 3 months, then you come back and you see what it is, and then we'll look at it again. Then because obviously but that has to be a massive idea, obviously. But we can't do that in South Africa.
I mean, you need like a full-on business plan.
Yeah. I spoke to the guys from Frank the other day. They, Thomas and Seb, who built, they started the company Frank, which is a saving fintech.
I actually saw the ad on YouTube.
It's quite cool. Yeah.
Super interesting.
And he said, because Thomas built the app at the beginning, and they built he built a minimum viable product, and he won a competition called Seed Stars or whatever, and he got a couple of funders, VCs, to back him, right? Like a group of funders, let's say 5. When he said that, I thought, oh, okay, so he had committed like maybe 5 million rand. He had less than $1 million backed.
Really?
Yeah, well, that actually pulled out, but just think, 5 people and they can't even give you $1 million rand.
That is insane.
And that's the capital allocators in South Africa to a properly good idea.
Yo.
So for me, that just showed like, there's really, really no money in South Africa.
Or do you think people who do have capital just are also risk averse?
Yeah.
Do you see that?
Yeah. They'd rather go after the big guns.
I was about to say they're rather more established.
That's why that actually
makes
makes sense. Can I tell you why that makes sense? Because we are a developing country, right?
Yeah.
In the rest of the world, emerging markets in developing countries, say like Russia, right? Their big valued companies trade at like a PE of 7.
Really?
Yes, 7.
Really?
7, bro. That's so low.
Yes, that is so little.
It's so low. Where in South Africa, we have some PEs over 20.
Yes.
So people are so risk averse that they won't even touch
Anything.
startups. They want to allocate everything to the financial markets, the JSE.
And also their like mandates and stuff like. So
The mandates don't give them
don't allow them to.
freedom to invest into private equity or invest into smaller companies.
And like it's like firms that do eventually just buy up the entire thing and they just integrate it into their companies.
Yeah.
For like growth wise.
Yeah, so they're exactly. So they only have like strategic takeovers, mergers and stuff.
Yeah, so if
And that's why I think we're lying short, because there's so much capital that lies in our JSE.
Yes.
There's so much capital that lies there.
Yes.
And that's what happens in South Africa. A lot of people, they work, a much load of their money go into a pension fund. That pension fund just goes back into the JSE.
Yeah.
Where that money can do a lot more, in my opinion, if it's invested.
Creating value.
Yeah. I mean, it's just an interesting concept, but like we think making 50% return on the stock market is massive, and it is. Making 50% return in a year is
Massive.
It's crazy. It's crazy.
I just also think large allocators of capital, granted they want to keep a certain level of risk profile. I understand why they would invest into the stock market, but we're not saying invest everything into startups, but they should kind of also start that culture just a bit, dude, like 10% of your portfolio, dude, into like startups, and kind of just encourage just new
building that.
That would be huge.
What would it hurt to allocate 5%
exactly
to only startups?
There are huge funds
and backing people for only a year to start a business, right? So let's say if you back 20 companies, one of those will be successful and you make your money back on that one.
Actually, I was reading up on something think I also listened to the podcast when on the way here to Pretoria with my sister, and I think it was in Rwanda where in the first 2 years of like a company that they're starting out, they don't pay taxes. So look at that.
And they don't have regulation.
Yeah.
They don't have to like comply
That's
with a
true.
lot of regulation.
Yeah, so like I mean, imagine now if SARS or the government like drives it where it's like, okay, cool, we'll give you an incentive for you donating not donating but like investing 5% of your portfolio into startups.
Yeah.
This incentive, and then now companies start doing that, because whenever there's an incentive, then that's when like they start going to that space. So I think we should also look at that. You know,
That'd be so interesting. But I think that's all we have time for today. Let's not make that. Yeah.
Thank you for tuning into that Finchat. We'd love to hear from you, so make sure you leave your thoughts and recommendations in the comment section. If you really like the Finchat, make sure you rate us, you follow us on LinkedIn, and lastly, please share. I am Phila and you have been listening to the Finchat podcast. Until next time, goodbye.